Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel yet again. Looking at a lovely subject this morning. A photograph I took the other day. Had a nephew of mine visit, and on the obviously outside, but he did have to just pop in a couple of times, and when he did, I noticed these lovely old boots lay on the mat. I thought that could be quite a nice subject. I mean, a lot of people ask me, they say, I'm stuck for things to do, stuck for things to paint. Just look around the house and see what's laying around, really. And there, lo and behold, it's the nephew's boots. And here is the drawing, very simply done. And I'm going to lead you through the painting process of this one. When you look at this type of subject, it's a background that really I put on first, and it's not necessarily the background that that I see. I mean, that's normal practice, artist license, and all the rest of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to damp the with a large mop brush, damp the background at least at the top until I come lower down. There we are, to that sort of position. Now you've got to remember, I may actually damp further than this. I've come up too high with the drawing there, but I'm hoping I can cover that. And we come down there, keeping everything nice and damp. I think that runs more or less around the back there like that. May need to make one or two adjustments as we go, but that's the nature of watercolour painting. Make adjustments as you go and hope for the best. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Right you are. So that's that. I've actually left the laces white paper at this stage. Right, now my background at the top, I'm going to have a green, because they're sort of like an orange. I'm going to have a complementary colours. There's lots of reds in there in the laces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a complementary colour, so it's a green background. So I'm starting off with a lemon yellow background to give a sense of light. Now I'm going to have the light coming from the left. So, and I've got no problems with greens if I start with yellow. Nice bit of light there. I'm actually going to pop a little bit of red into that as well. I want to get the feeling of light coming from, nice bright light coming from that left hand side. So a bit of yellow. I don't want to overwork this paper. The less you paint, the less you work on your paper, the better. Just applying the colour is the answer, really. Okay, now I'm going in to get my green. I'm going to use Windsor blue, could use Prussian, Phthalo, any of those blues, nice greeny blue, and I'm going to use raw sienna. There we are. That was a last minute decision, purely because it's not a particularly strong green, and I don't need a strong green in the background of this. What I'm looking for is a green, so it looks as if they sit on a mat really, but you can't really define the mat to any great extent. So there we go. And then I'm picking around and picking in between the laces, just so I can get some touches of white there, making certain that that runs up and round like that, keeping that flow of paint along the bottom edge. Checking around the boot shapes. The lace actually shows a little bit there, I think, so we'll go along with that. More blue now in the mix, considerably more blue. That's better. It's got a nice blue green. Make certain that goes into that area as well. Certain that goes into that area. go, look at that. Nice bit of light. Trying to pick up complementary colours really. Nice and dark over that, what was an area of colour that I didn't want to, the drawing actually. And then we work our way down. Can always adjust the shapes of these at a later date, but now I'm going to hit the bottom with a red with that blue. So there's a bit of red in there. See how it's really gone dark? And that could quite likely be the start of the shadow in that area. There we are. Look at that. Look, put the shadow in very early on there. Go round that lace hole, that lace there, keeping white paper. Notice how I'm not being too particular with this. A little bit darker there, so I'm probably going to use that as my shadow because I've got the light coming from the left. And that is the first wash of colour required for these lovely old boots. And I'll tell you what sort of boots they are when I've had a look at my phone. I've forgotten. I'm not up on these new boots. Right you are. Let's allow that to dry. Well, let's begin to dry off very nicely. As you can see, it's beginning to take form and shape. I can actually, because I'm going to leave a bead of white around the outside edge, I can actually now paint the actual material of the boot itself. I've just noticed I've not put the tongue of the boot in, which comes somewhere around like that. That one lays down, this one's laying inside, but it's all very dark. I don't know whether we will see that, but there is some. But may be worth putting in, may not. We'll decide on that. Anyway, the colour for the boot itself is like a mustard colour. So I'm going to start off with raw sienna. You could use yellow ochre or yellow ochre, whichever way you want to say it. And I'm going to put cadmium yellow with that, just to see what we get. Don't think we're far off, to be fair. I don't want it too red, but I don't want it too yellow. What about a little lemon yellow in there? Oh, that's better. So there's three colours: yellow ochre, cadmium red, and lemon yellow, cadmium lemon if you like. Okay, is that the colour we're looking for? A bit more red. Making adjustments as I go. Don't want to be too strong with this colour. Although I've started off in what will be a shadowed area, so that's always a bonus. If you, when you come to paint, if you're a little unsure of the colour, stay in an area where it's likely to be not noticeable as much. Yeah, I think that's probably good enough. I've left the eyes white there. And then we're heading off down into a darker area of the boot. Right, so I'm going to paint this side too, because that's at the same angle. It's always a good way to look at things, I think. Paint around that tongue like that. Yep, that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to a tad more water. It does dry. You'd be surprised how quickly it dries. So this is more or less the shadow part of. Got a soul on there, so we've got to watch that. We don't overpaint that. trying to just work fairly quickly before it dries too much, because I want to get some deeper, darker colour in, and also pick up the highlights. Oh, and there's a little bit here that will be in shadow as well. All will be revealed, obviously. Like all of these things, they tend to reveal themselves as you work. Looks a bit rough at the moment. I'm adding a little more water now, because I want this to be perhaps a touch more red, just give it a bit more of an orange feel. Let's just see what we've got down this back edge there. That's where we want the lighter colour. As it goes around the corner, see how that's now a lighter colour. This one's the same, it's still damp, so it goes around the corner there and down into that area there. There is a fold. I mean, these are not the final areas of colour by any means, but it is the start of the process, really. Trying to pick around, mostly around the, here we go, run that in, run that up to there. You know, it's just a matter of trying to blend it all really and keep it all running nice and cleanly. And this one here as well. Obviously we mustn't forget that little area. And all of a sudden we're beginning to get the boot shape coming, purely because we've had a bit of light and a bit of dark. As I say, not any means the finishing tone, just trying to work out where I am here. All right, that's the lace that goes there, so that is the lace that goes across there. Where does that go? Oh, I haven't actually drawn that. It's amazing. Oh well, we'll get that to tuck round the back. And yep, not going to put that over the top. Don't always have to put it exactly where it is. Here we are. That's the lace going down the back. And then a little bit more water for the really lighter side of the whole thing. And that's there. Watch the laces. And round there, remembering to go around the laces if you can, down on that back edge and away. A little bit low there, I'll draw that off shortly. Then of course there is the area here. Oh, and of course this area as well. All a bit confusing there, but let's try and, oh, that's the other lace, that's the other side of that. Right, okay. Well, we'll have to clearly define that at a later date. Must be another one come from there. It's all getting very very complicated, really. That's the nature of these things, I suppose. Just remembering where the white is, and that's the sort of toe area. Then on the sunlit side, obviously, it should, or the very, very light side, there is sun coming into that area. So that is considerably darker. What have we got here then? Oh, right, okay. Okay, right. Well, I'm sure nobody will notice, will they? My nephew will, probably. And finally, we go around base of there. And that is more or less the main painting of the actual fabric of the boot. Well, I say that, but it's not quite, because Well, it is actually, yeah, sorry. Okay then, that's it. Just going to show you how to just lift away a little bit of colour there. There's the tongue there, but it'll be so dark you won't see any difference in that soon. That will need lifting off. Should do it once it dries really, but should get away with it. There we are. And that will need lifting away because it's going to be grey. There we go. It's all going to be gently teased at a later date. Okay, so that's the second stage of painting these lovely old boots. Well, following on from that stage, we're now going to look at the tongue itself in the centre. That's the dark area, and that is a grey, but it's quite a warm grey. So to get that warm grey, I'm going to use the Windsor blue again with the cadmium red. Gives me quite a nice sort of grey. A bit more blue, gives me a blue grey. Doesn't want to be, I'm using a slightly smaller brush now. A bit more red in there. Turn it grey. May need a yellow just to get the real greyness of it. So I'm going to use a bit of lemon yellow again. There we go. A bit more blue. It's a delicate mix, but I think we've sort of cracked it really. Actually, I'm going to use cobalt blue. There we are. That's a change of thought there. And I'm going to paint that tongue there. It will all be in shadow eventually. A bit more red in that with the cobalt. Just warm that up just a touch. There we go. And that's a sharp edge there, and that's still a bit damp. Gone it a bit early here, but there you go. Got to be very close to that, but without getting touching. And then we have an area of dark there. It will get to a point where, you know, it has to be impressionist. It must not be tight in any way, because if you start painting tight areas of colour, in other words too precise, then you're losing the freshness of it all and the spontaneity of the painting process really. That's what I always sort of try and portray in these videos, that you've got to, you know, you've got to keep painting, just keep wiping the colour on, paint where you can, as near as you can get to the lines you feel, but after that you've got to go with the flow a little. Make certain you don't overdo things, because it's far better not being quite right in your colouring or the application than overworking. That all becomes very sort of muddy and not fresh at all. A fresh painting always looks better. That's my personal opinion. See them laces, they are very, very rough and loose, but that's a bit more blue. That's the way they are, in my opinion. And there we go. And that just tapers off around there. So that's that one. Now we're going in again up here with this one, and this blends into that top, but will only be seen when we get when we actually put in a real shadow area. We've still got shadows to put in, but so far it's looking quite good. The lace there, lace coming down there. That's that. Then we have that one crosses over there, so that comes down there like that. Notice I'm leaving plenty of highlights, plenty of white paper in certain areas. That must come under there, so that goes like that. I'm making it up as I go along on this bit because I've lost track, which quite often you will do. And then we go into this area here, which is, oh right, okay, and of course then that then tapers out. Forgot about that. Tapers down to there, doesn't it? It does. And that's something I didn't bargain for. Okay. Okay. Okay, well we'll deal with that. It's another issue that's cropped up. Good. But overall, I think we can be quite happy with that. Bring that down to there. That's it. Okay, right. That's that stage completed, relatively successful. Now I'm going to use the same grey for the, but very much weaker, for this area of, so like the sole really, as it comes around and goes off, goes up the back there, and this one comes down relatively tight there, and that comes down and round, quite white, quite light. There we are, so that's the sole in. That was relatively easy. A little bit of sole at the back there, I think, that we can probably see, but we'll, okay, let's not be too concerned. That's in shadow as well. That covers everything for me. If it's in shadow, it's not too important. Right, now I'm going to paint the actual laces themselves. So we've got red, white and blue. Right, so the red will be cadmium red. What else? Nice deep red, which they are. Okay, so we've got a bit of red there, and it's only showing in places, just depends on the turn. So this is the reds going in, that's on that top edge there, it's coming out of there and it's going down there. Here we go. Right, there's an area there. Right, so that shows red there. Just having a quick look. Oh, right, it's on the top of that and the underside of that, top of that, underside of that, and oh, right, be the underside of that because that's the inside as well. Good. So that's that. Not that difficult to paint. Now we have this one here, which is on the top of that, like that. Just shows a little bit as it comes through there. All will be revealed. Looks a bit complicated at the moment, but pretty confident that once we get the, oh, there's quite a thick area there we can see, and then it comes up and actually crosses over there and goes down there. This one is all gnarled and turned, so we'll do that, and of course that goes into that. Then this one, we've got the underneath there. That's over the top. What about this one coming down here? Oh right, it's quite a thick area, then it goes thin again where it bends. They're flat laces, you see. That's where the confusion could be when you paint. So we've got to watch that we get that right. All right, there. And this one is also there like that. And we have that one runs across, so that's flat there. That one is that one there. That is the opposite. That is the opposite. That's it. Good. Okay, and just one other area is this one here. Well, it's mainly blue and white there, but then as it turns, you can actually see quite a thick area of that until it comes down. Then it tucks underneath, and that's the boot is actually sitting on that. So there we go. Right, now we're using blue, and it looks like cobalt blue to me. So that's what I'm going to use. Nice blue, relatively thick. And then we start the blue touch there. And the blue there. It's white between them, I understand, or that's what it looks like to me. That comes around there. Notice how I'm being very, very impressionist with this. Purely because that will give me, I'm hoping, the best result. All being well, and quite often all is not well, but that to me is pretty much what we're looking for, really. I'm babbling on a bit, but just trying to talk you through this so that you, if you do decide to paint this, you don't actually get too bogged down with detail, because that is where you'll lose the freshness. And it is the shadow work that pulls it all together at the end anyway, so you've always got that to cling on to as you paint. Quite often one tends to get a bit bogged down, but just try and give yourself a bit of encouragement, and just the fact that all being well, shadow work will pull everything together. Well, I hope I've done all the laces there. I think I have. So I'm going to clean the brush. That's good. Okay, we'll allow that to dry. Okay, well, I'm going to work with two brushes here because I need hard and soft areas, because I'm looking at painting the shadow work. I'd see now that I've got really two areas to paint: the shadows and the finishing touches. So for the shadow work, I'm going to use Windsor blue and cadmium yellow. Sorry, Windsor blue and cadmium red. Why I said yellow, I'm not sure. Oh, there may be a little yellow in there, that's the reason. Yeah, little yellow in there anyway. But now we want that deep, dark depth shadow that's reminiscent of a good watercolour. You know, it's always nice and deep and dark, these shadows. Right, where do we put them? Well, the deepest of the shadow is somewhere about here. Oh, that brush is well loaded. There we go. So that's going to, and this is where you pick up the laces in their true shape. And that's why I've used a rigger, a large rigger, I would say that, because it does have that point that also holds a lot of paint. So that's a bonus. And you can fiddle in between these laces, hopefully keep the highlights on them. There we go. Touch down there, touch down there, touch down there. Whoop, there, gone too far with that. Oh well, we'll lift that off shortly. It happens. I don't think I can get away with a blemish in these boots because my nephew knows these boots. They're a very good friend to him apparently, wherever he goes on his walks. And I'm just going to feed that in, and it should just gradually taper off. And the reason why I've got this other brush is because I can now use that to create edging there and to run that colour into that area, and we get a soft edge. See that? So it's gradually running into the light area. Right, now we're working up, so I'm going to paint this area as well. Internal, this is the tongue really of the boot. You can actually pick up the shape of a bit better of the laces now as well, purely because you're picking around. There we are. Yeah, I think that's pretty much got it. And that goes through there like that. And that is the tongue that lays inside the boot, all very dark and grey. Right, so that goes up there like that. Then I'm going to use a slightly weaker colour along the top edge there. So I've used this other brush now. Still leave a bit of white for the opening. Come into that just around the tongue area. It could very well be dark enough there. That could very well be dark enough. Or should I combine? Let's combine. There we are. I've combined the two. So you can't actually see where the tongue finishes. And then, of course, we just damp the paper just to get that film of light entering there like that. Good. That's pretty much all that's required on that side of things. Now we use the same colour again, and we're going to do, right, let's start off in the really dark area, which is that area there, that area there. All very delicate stuff. Some of you may enjoy painting this sort of thing. I mean, it's not my everyday choice, but it is a choice that that is enjoyable. You know, I wouldn't say, you know, I am enjoying the process. So that's really is something that you must do, of course. If you're not enjoying what you're painting, chances are you're not actually going to end up with a particularly good result. That's generally the way it works. And then of course we just soften that again so it runs into, so we can feel shadow, or actually see it progressively going in to that shadow area. There we are. Now we continue with the same colour here. Does have some detail on the stitching there, but I'm not getting into that. Over the top there, and of course that is a bit of a turn there as well, so that turns back into that dark area. But other than that, you've got sort of like a soft area there, turns back into that dark area again, and that runs up there. I think we can have to just soften that so as that blends a bit freely. There we are. That's good enough for the tongue. Then over the back here is a particularly dark area, the back of that tongue, where you've got sort of like the boot turns, or the back of the boot turns into, and then it goes into that. I don't want any real highlights there. That's it. And then it goes up too, into the heel of the whole thing. So that probably will work like that. Then there is a couple of lace holes there which I may have to lift off at some point, but we'll see about that when we come round to it. Trying now to get the feeling of that blending through and lifting off up into there. There we are. That's what we're looking for, to get a bit of depth to that boot. And then we pick out the final lighter area there, and then we soften gently with just almost a dry brush as it turns into that. See, we're more or less lifting off colour, trying to get the way that turns softly. Don't want to be dry, doesn't want to be too wet, to get that soft feel. And then just lift off a little bit around there, just to get a little bit of a highlight area. Not too concerned about that running through, but I would like it to be clearly defined in that position. There we are. And I think that probably does it for the inside of the boot itself. Now we're going to do the shadow actually cast from the boot. I know I said this had got a little bit in, but it has, but it's not enough. And I'm going to use the same shadow. It is watercolour, so it will gradually, and of course I will soften as well, but let me just show you this. I do have a shadow to go on the rim of that boot, but I'll deal with that shortly. Tucking up around the back, and that spreads out, and it's a soft shadow. It's not it tapers into a very light area. So, but it will pick up where that sole, and you can sharpen the edge of that sole up as well with this. See where I'm sharpening the edge of that sole up and giving it a more clear, and you can extend this as far or as little as you like really. I'd like to have a little bit of, I'm going to soften that I think. I could leave it hard edged. It probably would work, but there we go. And that's going to then sort of tuck under, stands up a little. Right, then what I'm going to do with a damp brush is just soften it, so that we've got a soft edge shadow rather than a hard edge shadow. And that just tells the viewer that it is it's that sort of light. It's not a sharp light. and that just runs out of picture like that. I've just decided to allow that to soften away like that. Good, that's almost there. Right, now I'm going to use this brush to produce a very weak shadow, and for this I'm mainly cobalt blue with a little red, a little cadmium red, because this shadow, it's got to be a bit more subtle. So it's there like that, and it's running round, and that then, I'll use another brush, I haven't got a thing with brush for this, that then runs gently round to the front like that. So that's the shadow. Now there will be a shadow there that tucks underneath, and that more or less blends with the colour that we've got on the boot. See the way I'm blending that in? There we are. Gives a rather mystical sort of colourful slant to that. Good, that's okay, that's looking good. Yeah, I'm pretty much happy with all of that as far as it's going. Oh yes, forgot about that. We do have shadow there as well, so we do need to increase that. And I did forget that we can see the shadow at the back there, which is always interesting to put in, because that clearly defines that area there. There we are. Brilliant. Yes, I think we can be pretty much happy with the outcome of that. And then we've got the good old finishing touches. Now they are done with a very small brush, and just to highlight and sharpen up everything really. Now the first thing I'm going to do with these finishing touches will be gently taking away some of the real white paper on these edges. Not everywhere, but just some of them, because with a very weak colour that the paint I've used for the actual boot itself. See where I'm just taking away some of the white paper before I actually start, and that just, it was very, very white, and I always say that you can remove the white paper, but if you don't start with it, it's very difficult to get to come back. So it's vital that you leave it till the end and see where you do need the white edge, like down there. I need that white edge, so I'm just painting to the left of that. And I do need the white edge down there. Along the top I do. Just down that back edge I still need a bit of white edging. And it begins to sharpen the boot up. You know, it begins to get a bit more clearly defined. Well, that's what I feel anyway. And there it goes. What have we got under here? Yeah, well, there we go. Good. Now, of course, that area will be in shadow, but not as dark as the rest. So that is something that I'm going to look at shortly. But I've just got some other areas of this rather lighter colour, not too dark, just where the lace holes are, like that. And there is an area there like that, where that comes in, and an area there. The little areas that look a little muddled, well, they are a little muddled, but that's the way it is, I'm afraid. And a bit there, leaving still white paper in certain areas, vital that you keep that white paper thing going. Good. Now I'm going to line it now with a strong mix of Windsor blue and cadmium yellow. Sorry, cadmium red. Why I keep saying yellow, I don't know. And let me show you what I mean by finishing touches on. Still got a shadow to put in there. I think I will put it in. I mean, it works relatively well without it. Maybe I'll leave it. That's why it's not gone in yet, because I can't quite make my mind up. But there's an area there that needs defining. Area there. Area there. Oh yes. Pulls down into an area there. See the way I'm just gently trying to get a bit more definition. And it's mainly, it's a bit higher there, but of course then as it comes down and face you, it disappears. There is a small area there. Right. There is also a bit of decoration on that. Now that is a little heavy, so I'm taking a little bit of a colour off of that. That's it, and just rub it away with my finger. That's I haven't got a technical term for that, but just rub it away with your finger. And then of course you've got that bit that comes down there like that. It goes underneath and tucks away. Load the brush just a tad more. There is an outside edge of that sole coming down there, and that heads down to there until it turns. And of course you don't see it, but you do when it tucks under there. See? Look at that. Not too difficult in many ways. Just having a look at this now, just trying to define what does need, without actually overdoing the whole thing really, which would be so easy to do at this stage in proceedings. And believe you me, I have been there and overdone these little areas, and consequently I'm always very tentative. It's always a very difficult sort of finishing touch. You know, it's so difficult to get it wrong. Well, I mean, providing, you know, I suppose in many ways I can't really spoil this, but I could, you know, make it so it's not as in my opinion I could spoil it, but just making certain that or just clean that away, because that just turns into a rough piece there. There is just a little bit there. Oh, and there is just where these laces thread in, a little bit there, a little bit there. There we go. And a little bit there where the laces go in. Perhaps there's still damp on that, so let's may even decide to lift that away. There we go. There we go. Good. Well, I think we have pretty much exhausted the possibilities with this one. Just going to take a bit of the light away from that, because that's in shadow. Just 1 or 2 areas of shadow on the laces really. Just sharpen them up. Not thinking about them too much, but 1 or 2 little areas maybe as they turn away from the light be in sort of shadow. Oh, particularly that area that's underneath there that comes down, that would cast a shadow possibly. All very soft and subtle. Good. I think we need to sit back and have a look and see what we've done. Okay, well, I think that's worked out quite well as a study of my nephews. Reliably informed, they are Converse sneakers, which, well, I'll take his word for it. But in the meantime, I'm going to sign up in the bottom right hand corner in the shadow in the paint that I used, as I always do. Always sign your work. There we go. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Please do, bottom right hand corner, I have my logo, and please, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my tutorial channel by clicking the subscription logo at the bottom right hand corner. I hope you've enjoyed that, and stay tuned, and we'll see you all again very soon. Thank you for watching, and happy painting.